by catching those droplets in the mask.
Fascinating. And when you are a little kid, over the age of 2, and you're wearing something like this, in your eyes, do you think it's going to work as well as it would for an adult, or will there be other challenges because kids, you can't always explain to them, don't touch your face and don't remove this or don't play with it, don't bite it. Is that going to be an issue?
It is. Masks are difficult for children, and we have a history of this at the Children's Hospital of using masks for various procedures even before COVID. There are some situations where a child would need to wear a mask, and there are special size masks for children as well. And there are certain developmental issues that come when asking a child to wear a mask. It can be somewhat intrusive to them or invasive. It might be scary for them to see their parent for having a mask on, or to have the sensation of having a mask on their face might be quite foreign to them. So it does require a lot of patience and explanation by parents. The American Academy of Pediatrics does recommend that children over the age of 2 wear masks when in public and unable to social distance beyond less than 6 feet. So those are the situations where we do recommend it.
What tips would you suggest to get your kids maybe more comfortable? What have you used in the past with kids with highly infectious concerns that you have?
There's a couple things that we do in the hospital and that parents can do at home. One is first just a basic explanation. Having the parent wear the mask first so that the child gets to see what it looks like on a parent and become a little more familiar with it. You can place the mask on a doll or a stuffed animal and have the child participate in that. That's one thing. You can personalize the mask, put stickers on it, draw figures on it, whatever makes the child feel a little bit more comfortable with the mask.
What great ideas. These are things that never would have even popped into my mind, but now that whole idea of finding that favorite stuffed animal, it's as simple as, making it, personalizing the
That's
touch.
Right. It just makes it a little more familiar, a little more user-friendly for a child and more developmentally appropriate. It's also important to note that you really want to make sure that the face covering not be a strangulation hazard for the child. So this would be very important for if you're using a cloth or a handkerchief kind of covering for the face where it might go all the way around the neck. It's really important that not represent a strangulation hazard.
And that's probably why we don't want to have these on for anybody under the age of 2. Because
that's correct. That and the fact it's just very difficult to keep it on and explain it to a child less than 2 years of age.
I would argue maybe up to 3 or 4, but at that stage they can start to understand mommy and daddy are doing this, and maybe also seeing them do it, they can emulate that. They'll want to copy and do this a little bit more. So playing pretend with them and putting it on as frequently.
Correct. Even some children over 2 are going to have a hard time with it. And in those situations, if a child is unable to wear a mask or has other reasons for being able to not wear a mask, it's important to keep them socially distanced from greater than that 6 feet measurement that we're using.
In your eyes, and with what we've done, of course we talked about briefly, we've seen another state already make this mandatory. It's not mandatory here. Would you say it's highly advisable at this point to find those child-size masks and just get them ready and get them used to wearing them?
I think it's wise. I don't think it's mandatory. There are other measures that we can do simply by maintaining social distance that are likely just as effective. But I do think it's a wise thing, and do agree with the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations on using masks for children when possible.
Absolutely. Okay, so talk about, we have little kids that'll be wearing the mask, and then they'll want to eat something, and then they'll be taking it off and pulling it back and forth. You just kind of have to, masks aren't easy for adults to be wearing, so it's just going to be extra washing and extra, kind of worry around them, it sounds like.
It is, and keep in mind that the mask is really only going to be worn when you're in public and when you can't social distance. And as things open up over the next few months, that's certainly going to be more of a problem and more common. So those are times when we're going to have to watch your child closely, explain to them the basis for it. You can talk about germs and how this is to keep them safe and keep other people safe as well.
I love your answers. It's all good. Dr. Murray, anything else that you think that I should be bothering you about on the topic that you think would be important to share with viewers as we discuss I mean, it's a wild new world we're living in, and just want to try to provide I just thought that your tips about the stuffed animal and just putting those stickers and everything will speak to so many families out there that are just wondering, okay, this thing looks scary. Looks scary for an adult, and how am I supposed to get my kid to feel comfortable around this? And such great advice there.
Yeah, I think one thing that we know is the disease is less common in children, and when it does happen in children, is much less severe. So children, fortunately, in this pandemic, are suffering less than adults are, and that does provide us some margin of safety in the population.
Absolutely. What about places like, and this is just because I'm curious, daycare? Would you recommend I send my son with a mask, but but he's 2 yet, but he's coming? Would you say that in those situations, maybe smart to start doing stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it really has not been addressed at a national level yet. And I think in a daycare setting, there are certain essential daycares that are open. I think it becomes impractical in that sense to ask a child to wear a mask for the entire day, while at daycare or many hours. And that's one of the things with children. It's hard enough as healthcare workers to wear a mask for a prolonged period of time. And anybody who's been out in public for a prolonged period of time wearing a mask knows how difficult it gets after a while, even at the grocery store. So that is really difficult for a child to do in a daycare setting. So I don't think that's a practical recommendation.
You made me think of one final question for you. Should there be a mask time limit, for kids, like maybe 20 minutes and then, that's enough, a quick, if we have to be out for a short period of time because it's hard to wear these things? Anything that you would recommend?
I don't think there should be a hard and fast time limit. Depends on the risk and the exposure situation. How many people are around you, where you are in the country. Certainly a lot of different areas of the country have a lot more disease than we are seeing here in Wisconsin. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule in terms of the time limit. Also depends a lot on the tolerability of the child to the mask.
Excellent. I probably have plenty.
Your life, but when you see how it looks, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that actually turned out pretty cool. So yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
No. Perfect.